All right, we're live on Kilt's Mighty Tribe, and I think we're live on.
Did you hit Instagram?
I didn't hit anything. We're good.
Okay.
We're doing what we can today, right?
We're live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, I think Rumble, X, and wherever you are watching from. It's the 27th of June, Friday, and tell us where you're from, where you're watching from.
We lost Adrian for a minute, it looks like.
She'll be back.
She'll be back. I'll be back.
As soon as we finish here, I'm on my way to the airport.
Where are we going?
Boston.
Boston meetup. Healing humanity. We're bringing it all together. Awesome. Let's get Adrian back in here. Yay!
Sorry.
That's all good. We got Adrian here. We got Dr. Nelson. Let's see. We got Ray, Matthew, Cindy, Edmund, Ray again, and Rhonda on Kilt's Mighty Tribe. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Adrian, what are we talking about today?
Hold on.
So
product switch.
Well, you got that. We're going to announce we have a hashtag of Adrian. And what are we giving away today?
What are we going to talk about today?
What's that?
What did you say? What are we going to talk about today?
I did say that, but what are we giving away today as a prize? You know how to do the prize thing, right, Dr. Nelson?
Yes. I got
Good.
that.
How about the book? How about the Babies for Babies book?
Okay. We are giving away Babies for Babies.
Love it. I'm live on Instagram, by the way. And Adrian, are we going to talk about the GL? P?
Yeah.
We'll talk about all of it today. We're talking about keto, carnivore, faith, fasting, and even the use of some of the modern concepts and ideas that might help some people to get to the next level.
Yeah.
We might lose some people here if we talk about the
peptides.
But we're actually highlighting GLP use in our fertility world for more people to at least get them thinking about reducing inflammation. But go ahead, Adrian. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I have to reset my camera really quick.
Oh, you look perfect.
Sorry.
Okay.
1 second.
All right.
Go ahead.
Please.
So let's see. We have here. If you have any questions already, go ahead and put them in the comments. Otherwise, we have very early here.
Perfect.
The Boomers, Brian, Sandra, Target Prime Rib, and are all good friends. Are you set?
I'm all good. Okay. Can I talk about some things that carnivore did do for me first? Because I think this is so important. Go ahead.
Adrian, for those who may not know you, and Dr. Nelson, I'm sure, is going to take it away. Why don't you hit it, Dr. Nelson, and introduce Adrian, and then Adrian introduce herself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, I'm looking to see if there was a little bio. I guess we don't have it, but Adrian Gledhill was, one of her claims to fame. I'm going to say one of them, but you were on a very popular for a while TV show. What was it, Adrian?
The Biggest Loser.
Okay. Do you remember what season was that?
Season 3. I was one of the first seasons.
One of the first experiments. And just spoiling the punchline, so to speak, pretty much almost all of them have gained back their weight. But Adrian has always, has been in the lifelong battle with the bulge, with the weight, and looking for ways to decrease that. Go ahead and tell us your story about what your health was like before carnivore, and once you found carnivore, and this latest episode or season of life where maybe you're using something.
I've added a tool to the toolbox.
Yeah, another tool. So go ahead.
My story is a lot of ups and downs, and I know people can really relate with that, where I've struggled with weight my whole life, and I would throw everything at it, and I would have success because I'm actually very type A, and I think I'm a pretty hard worker. And so Biggest Loser, I lost 66 pounds. Running and restricting, I lost 100 pounds over and over again. I added it up recently, and not including my ups and downs that were happening monthly, I've gained and lost 500 pounds. And my highest was 200 pounds more than I am today. So I was 330 pounds. And that's actually, I just stopped weighing myself because my blood pressure would go up every time I would see the number. I was panicking, Yeah. So, I tried Biggest Loser after the show. I mean, the second the show was over, my weight just started coming back. Even though I'm still working out, I'm still trying to count my calories. I'm still trying to do the things. I just felt like I was drowning. It was really, really sad because, when you're on that show, millions, how many millions, back in those days, like we didn't have much Facebook. We didn't have any YouTube to my knowledge. It was you watched ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox. That's, and so millions of people saw this. And then when I gained my weight back, I was so ashamed that I just hid for like 8 years. I just hid because I didn't know what to do. I was so sad about it. But after hitting that really big high, and my stomach like went out to my knees, I was huge. My legs were huge. My feet were like big puffy clouds. And I could barely walk. I mean, I wanted to, and I did sometimes use the scooters in the store. It was embarrassing and hard. But like, what do you do when your body is literally just blowing up and you hurt? It hurts to get in and out of bed. It's so hard to carry that much weight. So it's way more than vanity to me. It's also health and being able to move and have your body. And I felt like my body was taken over. So after I got to my highest, I started running and restricting, and I got 100 pounds off. Like that is a freaking amazing accomplishment to get down to the 230s. And then my body started going up again. And at that time, that was in 2013, 2014. The best research that was out there was that these bariatric surgeries were amazing and people were keeping their weight off. And I mean, after losing 100 and starting to gain again, I was like, something's off. Like I knew something was off because you shouldn't be working this hard and gaining weight again and to not even get into the 100s, So I have this surgery and some of the weight comes off, but it came with a lot of consequences to this day. And one of the big consequences was this reactive hypoglycemia where, I cut the carbs the second the surgery was done, but I was still having this hypoglycemia. So over the next 10 years, I cut and I cut and I cut and I cut, trying to find the trigger food. And I found when I went on carnivore that the reactive hypoglycemia is completely at bay. So if anybody out there is struggling with that, I don't really know any other tool you can throw at it. But some people's reactive hypoglycemia isn't as bad as mine was. Wow. So it was amazing to make that go away. And another thing was, I think carnivore reduces your inflammation to a point that it helped my adrenals. And I think stress hormones were part of the reason my blood sugar was tanking. I don't know if you know a lot about that, Kilts, but my blood sugar would tank and no glucagon would come in to bring the blood sugar back up. And so sometimes I passed out. Like it was so bad. So that's one thing with carnivore I'm so grateful for.
Do you know what your glucose levels were when you passed out?
I did have it checked sometimes and they were in the 30s.
I get down to the 40s.
Well, I can too now that we're having the carnivore. I can have very low blood sugar without that symptom, without the shaking, sweating. You feel totally fine. And so to me that's not really hypoglycemia. That's just regulating blood sugar.
Maybe there's some other reason for that that's not sugar related, but other chemicals that come with carbohydrates, which is part of the addiction, which is sort of similar to alcohol withdrawal or heroin or opium withdrawal. So it's not a glucose problem. It's a carbohydrate plant sugar problem, because even sugars contain other substances besides glucose. That's a crazy, amazing story. Maybe there's some other interactions, but I'm just talking hypothetical. I don't know the why, but we know that when we're drawing for something, caffeine, nicotine, people have withdrawal symptoms, and maybe we're using the word sugar, but we should be using plant chemicals.
Yeah, the plant, because as I was cutting, I wasn't having fruit. I wasn't having, definitely not sugar. That was cut before the surgery. I cut all the starches right out of the gate. But yet for 10 years, even with the green beans and the beans and the even with the vegetables, I guess beans aren't vegetables, I was still having hypoglycemia. So I think there was a pressure valve of inflammation, the chemicals, other things. It just relieved it, and I just don't have it anymore.
What about the psychological part of it? And when I say psychological, I'm talking about the subconscious evaluation of the environment. I mean, the brain's not going to let you die. And in the stress of life, because we're a lot of you mentioned cortisol, adrenals, and all these hormones of these organ systems are not going to let you die of starvation. And so because of the stress and the worry, the body's going to do everything it can to keep fat on your body so you could survive hibernation, migration, gestation, caving in all of this, because we're living in a completely unnatural environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mold is one of my problems, and I don't know if mold is the right word, but that's what they call it.
Well, interesting. Okay, so I've been hunting down the cause of endometriosis.
Oh.
Now, endometriosis is a pelvic inflammatory condition that affects about 10% of women, maybe more or less. There may be a lot of silent endometriosis, but some of the articles I'm finding suggest bacterial inflammatory. I bet it's bacteria, yeast, and viruses that are all infecting the colon, and then they infect the vagina, cervix, uterus, tubes, ovaries, pelvis. And so the mold and bacteria and viruses are everywhere. And what do they love to eat more than anything?
Drywall? I'm just kidding.
Well, that's a good one. Sugar. What is drywall made of?
I have no idea, but it's awful stuff.
It's moist, but a lot of it when it gets wet. And so a lot of this may be, we're just feeding the microbes that are infecting and inflaming us all over our body. And stress, the brain says skinny is deadly. And why would you want to be skinny in a stressful environment? Is the problem too much food access more than anything?
I think this is my thought based on how I feel when I add these peptides, is that there's inappropriate hormone signaling going on. And in my research, it's potentially a gut lining damage and nerve ending damage. But again, stemming from what you just talked about, the viruses, the bacterias, there's a lot. There's a lot of different ways that it could happen. Could it be the chemicals they're spraying on the plants I was eating?
Well, heroin, cocaine, marijuana, nicotine, caffeine are plant toxins. 99% of the toxins are not sprayed on, they're made by the plants. And so we're blaming the modern world when in fact it's ancient plant science and they're out to get us. But you just mentioned the inflammation interactions, and another paper just talks about inflammation causing the pain of the bacterial, viral, and yeast infections of our organ systems that cause the pain and damage. And then they release hormones in order to help guide and direct us in the right direction. But the problem is, I mean, 50,000 years ago, how much food access did you have easily?
Yeah.
We didn't, did we?
No, we'd have to walk all day. But I do think along our walks, we probably went.
All right, she's frozen, I think.
Remove.
Oh, my internet's back. Sorry.
All right. Well, so keep on going on that line.
I don't know where it died off. Did it die off? I feel like we were walking to get our food, and we would probably walk a lot and get that fresh air and the grounding. But I think that we probably would have been hungry, and if we saw a berry, we probably would have been like, ooh, a berry. I don't think we would have been like, oh, dang it. Oh, am I back? Sorry. My internet it'll be good. I don't think that we were like, hey, look at that beautiful leaf. I just want to eat that.
Well, just walk down the street and pick the grass and the leaves and the seeds and eat them while you're going down the road. Would you do that?
There's probably dog pee on it where I live, but.
Would you eat this plant?
No.
So in fact, our diet is simply dictated by profiteers that want to make us weak meat, domesticated, and sick, because a plant-based diet is actually deadly to the body. So a lot of your problems were related to simple, you are poisoned by plants, and the brain and the body is damaged. That's all.
Yeah, there definitely is something off, because when you get to feel what it feels like to feel normal, and I never knew what that was like until I added this recent tool, which we can talk about the difference between what I'm doing and what we hear about. There's a big difference between the two, I think.
So ultimately, when you and I were hunting 50,000 years ago, are those animals saying, yeah, I'm here, eat me? Was it easy to get the animals to eat or the plants to eat? It was not. I mean, think about modern farming. Dr. Nelson, I mean, do you plant all your plants in your garden and that's all you eat?
I absolutely don't plant anything, and I have to go hunting to the big box places.
Which is not normal either.
No.
What's not normal? Bugs?
No, the big box.
If you think only 200 years ago, you very often would have to go hunting, really hunting for it, work for it. We didn't have cars, planes. So if you wanted to go far away, you had to walk long distances. So if you had a horse or a donkey, and then you could get on a boat and travel across the world, but you had to make great efforts, a lot of activity, not even exercise, just being able to move from point A to point B. You had to walk, even if you wanted to buy something. The concept of big stores didn't exist. You did have places, you had the market where you could go and buy, but you still had to go to town or wherever it was to acquire whatever you needed. Otherwise, you had to make it. You had to build your house. You had to make your clothes for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays,
maybe we had horses though too.
Well, not for the majority of our evolution. I mean, you go try to ride a wild horse.
Yeah. But there's a reason. Part of my journey is a lot. Since going carnivore, one thing I learned was I was running before this. And I was convinced that if I just ran enough, that's why I'm overweight. I just don't run enough. And so I was running all the half marathons. It feels like millions of half marathon medals because I was running. And you guys taught me that actually that's pretty stressful to our adrenals. That's pretty stressful to our body. That's pretty stressful to our hormones. And maybe we should consider walking. And so a long walk outside was part of my carnivore journey consistently. Long walks outside and getting that fresh air and the sun in your eyes. And it's so good for your lymphatic system. Like, I'm jonesing for a long walk right now.
So, but ultimately, we moved. We spent more time doing than we did eating.
Mm-hmm.
We spent more time hunting, gathering. I mean, go gather a bunch of ripe fruit for your entire clan, tribe, or village.
It's a lot of work, even picking stuff, finding it. But, there was a lot of fishing too. Hopefully people migrated towards water. And so hopefully there was, I would think we ate a lot of fish.
Well, how did you fish?
I think they netted. I don't know.
Okay, go make your nets. Go
find everything is a lot of work.
It's more
versus
work.
Typing.
I mean, let me order from the 3C Jopa Farms or Bighorn Mountain or Snake River Farms. I mean, or Amazon. I mean, basically, I don't go anywhere. Mm-hmm. I do, but
my dad is actually an elder in a local tribe, the Lakudere. So I'm part Native. And one of the things that they say, because in the end, I looked up, they call it chronic inflammatory response syndrome. You can name it whatever you want. It's inflammation. That is just inflammation, like chronic inflammation, whatever you want to call it. And one of the things that people do to feel better, and we think this is so extreme, is they live in a tent. They're touching the ground, they're breathing the fresh air, and it somehow helps the energy and it helps people heal, which sounds so extreme to us. But the reality is that is our ancestors. They literally lived in tents and touched the ground every single day.
Well, but let's go way back before that. We lived in the open environment. We lived in caves. Mm-hmm. We lived in ways that didn't utilize all those things. But in our most recent past, now tell us a little bit more about the tribes. Did they mostly do agriculture or mostly hunt and gather?
People claim that they were farming, but I want to say we brought that in and taught it to them. Prior to that, they were hunting and gathering, right?
Well, no. There was farming in the Americas far before the colonization, and so farming is ancient. Go ahead, Dr. Nelson.
Definitely not an expert in historical agriculture.
Me either, and I wish I was.
But we didn't have agriculture to the degree that it's done today, where you have acres and acres. I mean, people probably locally, first of all, that was the first, the backyard, whatever you could grow yourself. If you think of the amounts that you could produce for yourself, even in a small village, we're not talking about huge amounts either. We didn't go through any type of roads, and so acres and acres of corn, soy, wheat, or any other monocropping, and they had the land they had. They grew in one part. They grew one of the things. They grew, let's say, I don't know when tomatoes existed, but they had the tomatoes here and a little bit of corn and maybe a little bit of wheat, and it wasn't huge amounts.
What's interesting is we pretend like our ancestors were so dumb compared to us, but the reality is, do we know how to collect those seeds and preserve them for the next year? Do we know how to take care of all those animals and rotate them the way that our ancestors did? Do we know what they knew? They also knew that if we're going to eat these plants, we have to cook them to death. We have to soak them. We have to pick them at this exact season. We don't know any of that stuff. So there were times prior to this where I thought that eating raw vegetables was healthy. And so my husband worked on the road, and I would pack myself for the airplane these raw vegetables because I'm being healthy. I got to get there and be extra hot, and I'm eating my raw vegetables, and I get to come visit him, and my gut would blow up every time with this hot, awful gas. And I could not figure out why. I was like, it must be the stress of traveling. You get rid of the raw veggies, never happened since. Not one time has that happened since I've gone carnivore. Not one time.
So raw plants are harmful. Raw meat is masterful. Tell us about your meat that you eat and how do you prepare it? And then we'll get to the other G thing.
The G thing. That could be so many things, Dr. Kiltz, especially when you're talking about procreation. But anyway,
how many children do you have, Adrian?
I have 4 and I've birthed 5. We were talking about one of the problems in my history that was like, hey, something is off, was I struggled to get pregnant with 2 of my kids. And then I had a pregnancy and it ended at 19 and a half weeks, wow. Which they call it a miscarriage. But like at that point, you've told everyone I was going in to check the gender, and the baby was fine and then just stopped growing on week 16. And that was like one of the things that was like, hey, there's something else is off.
Right. We're in and out. You want to read CB Carmack's note while waiting for Adrian?
Rick, Adam is a moderator. They are discussing something that happened in another channel. Forget about that.
Okay. All right. Adrian, so back to inflammation of the gut, which affects every single system of our body. The bacteria, yeast, and viruses love our plant protein, low-fat diet. Deadly, simple, adios, move on. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was eating super healthy in that pregnancy. I was eating, every time I get pregnant, it just pushes me inside to be the healthiest I can be. And at that time, I did think lots of plants, lots of lean meat. This is what I need. And yeah. So, but I've been blessed to birth 4 kids that are earthside. I call it.
Amazing. We're all spiritual beings, and we have a temporary time here on Earth, as they say.
If you guys would like, because my internet seems to be so bad at 5 o'clock in the morning for some reason, I can switch to my cell phone if that's better.
I think we're doing okay there.
Okay. It's so weird in the afternoon when everybody's on the internet. It seems fine.
Question from Chris. I crave carbs after exercise. Kelsey and Adrian just touched on this. What should I eat to beat this desire? This is after exercising. What do you think, Dr. Kiltz?
Well, Adrian, do you have any comments on this question?
You're not going to like my comment.
Well, that's judgmental. How do you know that?
We're
not here to please me.
I was recently listening to Thomas DeLauer, who's a big fan of low carb, keto, carnivore. And he had mentioned that the one time he would eat fruit would be while exercising because it actually gets the sugar to the muscle.
How do you know?
I have no idea. That's just what he said. I think he's a pretty smart guy. I don't know.
I think he's pretty smart, but I tell you,
you know
why
what?
I think it's wrong.
You should have some milk.
Well,
milk has natural sugar, but it also has protein.
But you eat cells of organisms which contain all the micro and macronutrients. And so do you need sugar ever to be consumed from a plant?
I just wonder, after my brain today, which we always have theories and then we vet them out and we find out, oh, that wasn't the right theory. Right. But I just wonder if the carbs are actually more for a cellular energy than any nutrients, because we know that we can get all the nutrients we need from carnivore. I've been surviving it fine for years. So we know that we're getting the nutrients we need. My skin's never looked better. My hair is starting to look better. I'm just starting to wonder if the body's cells actually like that quick energy sometimes.
It's not energy. Sugar's for glycosylation. Energy is acetyl-CoA from fatty acids. If you can't make fatty acids or eat fatty acids, you're dead. And so remember, what are we addicted to? How many people say that coffee is good for us?
It's like half.
No, but the whole point is that we will say what we believe before we really truthfully understand the true science. And I love Lauer. He's a good guy. But remember, you and I and everyone is as intelligent as anyone else. The fact that we stand here and speak our beliefs doesn't mean we're any smarter than anyone else. And ultimately the question is an apple mean you're getting your energy, or is it just because we can't eat any of these things? And the keto world is far greater than the carnivore world. And we know you have no requirement to eat food for days and weeks and months as long as you have enough fat on your body. And you could still be as strong. I went 7 days, no food, did all my exact things, and my energy is fantastic. So what are my cells using for energy?
So, but here's the problem. When you're a person like me, I'm sorry, I'm so like glitchy.
We gotcha.
I struggle with chronic fatigue. And I thought maybe it was just in my head. I must just be kind of lazy. But every time I go to a functional doctor, they go, ooh, how are you walking around? And I'm like, well, I'm really tired. And they're like, yeah, you have, I don't know what chronic fatigue labs are, but apparently I have chronic fatigue labs. But I can feel it, like I'm really tired. And so some people are just not. And then those same people seem to be struggling with weight. So I think it's the damage to the nerves or the gut lining that's causing poor energy conversion from your own body.
Or the mind.
Well, here's why I don't think it's just the mind, because you add some peptide and I can feel the energy. I can feel it. And then also, go ahead.
Where do you get peptides from?
Where do we get peptides from? The compounding pharmacy?
You're right. It's a pharmacy. It's a drug. And it's just like being a vegan, vegetarian, Mediterranean, or whatever your religion is. We will fight for our beliefs. And so I'm selling you something. We're all selling something. Is your physiology truly, is your cellular function, Dr. Nelson, different than everyone else's?
No.
We're not. But our thinking is immensely different because we believe what we believe, and that's all that matters. And so remember, what's the most important thing that we must get every day? Likes, subscribers, and revenue.
I thought you were going to say like love.
Oh, no,
and
no, no.
sunlight.
No.
And bacon.
Okay, no doubt about it. But ultimately, we are all doing this because our brain drives us to do this. And then our belief systems are driven by what we're taught, which tells us, oh, I need that for my muscles. But what if that's not true? The question is, when you eat meat, do you get sugars?
I guess your body could produce some.
Well, no, your body actually, every cell of every organism contains sugar. And so when we say we need an apple to get sugar, but you get it from eating meat.
But the meat process is much more strenuous. So when there's a kink in the system, it doesn't always convert.
No, he's not talking about conversion. He's talking about the glycobiome and the layer that's over every cell. My contention with that is the amounts are different, though.
Well, but
we can measure the carbohydrates and the sugars in the meat.
Right, but
I agree that there are some, and the calyx, it's everywhere. But when you do have carbohydrates in meat, yes.
Right, but when you say glucose or energy, what about the other chemicals that come with the food you eat, and even the aminos, right? Which is a pharmaceutical compound, correct? I'm just throwing out ideas that maybe, because I'm interested in the GLP-1 story also, which I agree with the tools in the toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
But most people don't know that every cell of every organism contains sugar, glucose, and many other sugars, which ultimately there may be other compounds, because how many people are addicted to coffee, tea, alcohol, and eating a plant-based diet? Me too.
I should have brought my cup. I have a cup from you. I missed that. Will you bring some to Montana?
Oh, I'm not going to be able to, but
that's okay.
Maybe I will. We'll see. Go ahead, doctor.
I just want to foreseen the future minutes. Adrian, go ahead.
I better get to the point.
Yeah, let's get to the G's.
Okay. I believed in the bottom of my soul that carnivore was going to be the weight loss ticket to me.
Let me make a point here. We have among others, we have a famous YouTube ketogenic doctor who's believes in a very low carbohydrate diet that's also has been using for her patients some GLP. So yeah, there are those on both sides of the fence, and I would prescribe them for the right person under the right circumstances. Just go ahead.
Well, go ahead, Adrian, tell your story, because we prescribe GLP-1s.
Sure.
And what do you think about it?
So when you go into the mind piece, I believed carnivore was going to be my weight loss ticket. And I did see initial weight loss. And then I just kept struggling, and I kept struggling, and I kept struggling. And I did the things. I tried the different macros. I tried the different calorie deficits. I tried the different exercises, and I just kept gaining my weight back. And Dr. Lisa, very good friend of all of ours, she said, Adrian, you need the lion diet. So she lion dieted with me. And that wasn't something she necessarily was into, but she did it with me. And we were both feeling so great until like a month in, my body got so inflamed in just 3 days. I just tons of inflammation. And it was really sad, to be honest. My heart was broken because my mind was like, this is the ticket. This is the healing ticket for me. And then it just wasn't. And I started with, I went to a functional doctor's and we tried to work on thyroid and hormones. That seemed to help a little bit, but that wasn't the ticket either. And I never gave up on carnivore because it gave me relief from that reactive hypoglycemia. It gave me relief from autoimmune things I was having. It gave me this level of relief that you just can never let go of. I love it. So eventually I heard someone in our space talking about how if you do low and slow GLP, it's totally different than taking the mega pharmaceutical doses. And that if you couple it with eating a lot of meat and lifting, it can actually start getting your hormones to communicate. Now, I kind of thought it could be BS. And so I started my experiment in secret, because I didn't want to lose all of you guys. And also, what if what they were saying wasn't true? What if I was sick the whole time and it just was awful? Because I actually have friends who've gone the standard route through insurance, and they're on so much and they can't eat and they don't understand anything about protein and actual protein. They're eating their almonds and their protein bars made out of crappy whey protein with all kinds of additives. And, so I tried it, and all the work that I had been doing before to lose like 2 pounds, I was losing like 30 pounds. I had to slow down. The stressful things I was doing were too much. And so this is why I say where I could feel it, because my body was actually, I feel like I became like a man, because you see so many men and they just cut the soda and they're hot. There's so many men that go he just eats his meat and he's a smoke show. And that's not really how it worked for me. But when I got what feels like my hormones communicating, now I can carnivore and it actually produces results. Now, I'm still 25% fat. Like, I feel like I still have healthy fat kilts. If I were to catch a bad virus or, God forbid, something weird happened in our country, I got some fat left. Kilts. My body did not let go of all of it, but it definitely feels like a healthy level. It feels like work actually works. And yeah, so I feel better on it.
So are we supposed to exist thin and everyone's supposed to be the same size always?
Well, I'm not 13% fat. I'm still 25% fat. But previously, I was carrying a lot of weight on me.
Right. But so my point a little bit is, there's no one size fits all in the sense. Depends on your environment, your fasting needs, and things like that. But we're obviously all working to get to what we've been sort of propagandized to be, all of us, by the way. And so getting to that is not easy because it's not supposed to be. But what you're saying is microdosing GLP is another tool that temporarily can help you get to that spot. And even the point of some people sometimes need an antibiotic, or they need other health care or surgeries or other medications to help them through a hump. A GLP-1 is just another tool that may be helpful for some people, and other people just choose not to do it or don't want to touch it. Tell us how it was on the GLP-1.
Sorry, it blinked out for a second. What did you say?
What was it? How long were you on it? What was it like? And are you still on it?
So I want to bring up a case. You know how you talk about fat is so good? There's no way 300-pound people were walking around. And when I look at people like my son and my ex-husband, my son is a pretty good eater. He's not eating cake. We don't even have that in our house. He's not eating chips and garbage. And the guy is blowing up. Like, there's definitely something off, because you shouldn't be 300 pounds that there weren't people walking around like that. It's not healthy. They would have died. They wouldn't have been able to hunt. Like, there's a level of fat that's functional, and there's a level of fat that there is something off. And when I am not on this, I am chronically gaining weight just like him, chronically. And I have to marathon. I have to make it a full-time job or my body gains weight. Like, there's a signaling problem. And these seem to be working to signal it. Now, do I wish we could get to the bottom of why is the signaling off? So we don't need anything. I don't want to take anything. I just want to eat my meat, my food, and move on with my life. But right now, I don't know that we have a permanent tool for this.
Isn't our problem we just exist in an environment that's not natural?
No, well, it is, but like, I feel like it did damage. And how do we?
Well, what if our body is perfect, but our environment we live in is the problem, and it's difficult not to eat food when it's there all the time and everywhere? And so we're using alternative tools in order to squelch our appetite, in order to help us.
Ooh, this is how I know something's different. But let me answer this question. So I think people, instead of buying tea and instead of buying RX bars, I think you should just eat meat. If they do, I would love to see studies of how much GLP-1 is produced by meat. It's dense and it moves slowly through the digestive system. So when it hits the intestine, it can produce a lot of GLP-1, which is why when people go on this, they say, the food, they don't call it food noise. They say, my addiction has been relieved. But if that goes away, to me, that's a sign you might be in my boat. And why do I say something's different? Because the signaling to my brain is totally different. I don't take enough that it changes how much I eat, but I don't have the signal to my brain every 5 minutes telling me time to eat, time to eat, time to eat, time to eat. There's a kink in the system that the function isn't going to the brain. And I don't agree with everything Ben Bikman says because he is on the board of these companies. And so he's very anti-shot. But he does say they've scientifically seen that the signaling to the brain is different in people who are struggling with weight versus those who are not. It's really hard for people to understand unless you've experienced intrusive food noise.
Well, is a heroin addict have different signaling than a non-heroin addict?
Yeah, but I don't think we created this through sugar. My family's been a whole foods family like my whole life. I was fat as a kid, so they were putting me on a diet as a kid.
Yeah. Interesting. Question here from Mighty Tribe from Cindy Vonk, our good friend Cindy. Adrian, do your children enjoy the meat like you do? What do they snack on? Thanks.
So my kids do love meat because I told them it makes them strong. And then I think my big guy likes meat because it makes him full. And when your signaling seems to be wonky, it's hard to get full. And so he loves to be full. He also loves to please his mom. And my big guy, he doesn't feel comfortable. And so I can see that if he could lose some weight, he wants to. So one of the main things my kids snack on is chomps. And I wish I could say I homemade them some jerky instead of some chomps, but they do love chomps.
What are chomps?
They're like these beef sticks that are supposed to be clean.
Are there
beef stick?
We
have a question here. Has anyone heard about people drinking yerba mate as an alternative to GLP-1s? I think you touched a little bit on this. This is not a new thing. Yerba mate is like, or yerba mate, it's like another coffee. It's basically has some methyl xanthines, similar to caffeine. It has a similar compound. Caffeine, and there are many compounds that have been in studies given some benefits in weight loss. That's why if you've been reading ingredients for years and years, all these weight loss products that you always find in the pharmacy over the counter will have some caffeine, some yerba mate, some other alternative, ginseng, or all these things. There are some studies that suggest there's nothing over the counter though as strong as some of the medicines that have been marketed and taken off the market, by the way, multiple times during the past 40, 50 years. I hope this is not where the GLPs are going to go at some point.
I think millions of people feel so different, but the problem is the dose. Now, my husband is 6'4". He was 290 pounds. He had a tiny bit of fluff. And he was like, I'm going to guess he was like, hey, my wife's getting hot. Maybe I should get hotter. I'm just kidding. I don't know. So he goes on it and he can't even take a third of the starting dose, or he feels like he needs to go to the hospital. And that's what they're starting people on, is the starting dose. Now, other people who seem to have metabolic issues, the dosing schedule is based on people who have signaling problems. And so some people, the starting dose is like nothing. It's like injecting water. But some people, it's poison. And that's where we're seeing these people. I mean, I have a friend who literally has blacked out multiple times. And when she goes to the doctor, because I'm pretty sure it's because she hasn't been eating in months, they tell her, well, those are loading doses. So if you can't hack it, this isn't the medicine for you. Rip the medicine away. So you've jacked her up and then you rip it away. What do you think's going to happen? She's going to gain all her weight back. On top of, you just caused her massive muscle and bone loss. And I'm pretty sure her organs are failing because she's blacking out. Like, she's so malnourished and you're ripping this away from her. I mean, it is a disaster, the standard plan.
But the drug itself, what you're saying is, has value at different doses for different people and lower microdosing. What about continuing the dosing and staying on it for life or longer in order to manage our hunger and appetite?
So Dr. Boz has been talking about staying on it for a period of time and cycling in new cells. You know, just like you talk about the brain, you know, our cells have memory too. And if they remember the dysfunction, I don't know. So she has a theory that if we cycle in new cells that have only been regulated, that your body is in a different place. It also is helping heal your microbiome in your gut. So you leave with a different gut. So anyway, Dr. Tina Moore talks about this too, that you stay on it for a period of time to really actually heal some of those.
All right.
All right. We have some more questions. Let's
come back. Okay. Anyway, my plan is, once I have, let's say, had new cells cycled, created a new normal, my body's maintained its weight, then I would want to try cycling. And because there's like thousands of peptides and all the other peptides are being cycled.
What about glycoproteins?
I have no idea what that is. Please enlighten me.
Well, when we say peptides and proteins, 100% of proteins are post-translationally modified with sugars, with methylation, oxidation. There are all sorts of other add-ons that I think we're missing in the story, which is part of the problem with our environment that's damaging our proteins. But our proteins are not just protein. They're glycosylated, methylated, hydroxylated. So it's a complicated but simple concept that nobody's talking about in this, because we think glucose is energy, but it is not. And but I believe that GLP-1s are anti-inflammatory, because GLP-1s reduce the intake of food, because it's food, even carnivores that consume a low-fat diet, and the majority of them do, that's not a healthy diet for most people.
But it's doing more than food, because it's doing more than just the intake. Because I've been able to eat. Like previously, if I wasn't tracking, I was gaining weight massively, quickly. And I don't track it all anymore. And I'm on such a low dose, I can eat an 8-10 ounce steak, which post-bariatric surgery, that's pretty good. You know, I can eat 3-4 burger patties. You know, I can eat.
Yes, you can eat, but it's not being absorbed, because the GLP-1s do two main things. They reduce your appetite and they reduce the absorption of the food into the gut, into the through the digestive system into the body. And
Why
so
do you say that? Because it slows the digestion down. So I would think it's absorbing better.
No, it's actually, remember, it's causing dysfunctional. Again, GLP-1 drugs are not normal, and we're dysfunctioning the normal process of the gut. So it causes essentially a form of malabsorption, in essence. There are lots of patients with GLP-1 side effects that are caused by the malabsorption, malfunction of the gut. So, and it reduces.
No. It slows down the food so you get better hormone signaling.
Again, it's not the hormone signaling, it's the gut. It causes not natural function to the body. We use it just like antibiotics. Are antibiotics good for us?
Here's the thing, Kiltz. When you talk to anybody like me, I've never felt this normal in my life. Ever.
Well, wait. Again, normal, we're using drugs to feel normal. And
I know, because something's off.
But again, we don't know what normal is without even the drugs.
Here's why I'm saying this. Because you compare all the work I was doing to lose 5 pounds against a man doing the same work, they would almost be dead from being so skinny, because I was working it so hard. It was a full-time job to not gain weight. That's not normal.
Again, but it is normal, because losing weight and being skinny is not normal. No animal wants to lose weight and be skinny. I'm agreeing with what you've done to get to where you want to be, but ultimately we are still using drugs to get to that, which I do all the time, by the way, for my patients. So I'm just sort of describing the function of what's going on, not saying what you're doing is wrong. Okay. All right.
But if you, for example, here's a great example. If you join groups, you're going to find a ton of women who are not getting the results that men do. You're rarely seeing men in these groups because they just eat meat and it just kind of works. Because and some of them will intermittent fast. Some of them will track. They got to put some work in. I'm not saying no men are putting in work. But then you look at the woman and they're like beating their head against the wall and nothing is moving.
Because we've been propagandized to believe that there is a right size, and essentially skinny 99.9% of the time in evolution is deadly for humans. And men have different bodies, and they have androgens at higher levels that are there for a different reason. Without fat, women are dead. And again, reproduction requires more fat. Again, I'm just describing in general.
What, 250 pounds, Kiltz?
I never
300 pounds?
I didn't say that, did I?
If I stop doing all these things, I am quickly 220. Like I could be 220 next year.
Of course you could, because in our ancient evolution and environment, your genes were the reason we exist. The get fat fast gene is the most important gene that exists in the universe. But in our modern environment, it's a deadly gene, because historically access to food was limited and hard. And so we're talking anthropologically, but remember, the majority of us are dying of our environment. And I'm all for what you've done, but we need to understand how the human body works, not how we want it to work, because we want to be skinny. Other questions, Dr. Nelson?
Yes, we have a question here. Basically, what kept you going is the short of the question. It says, what kept you going in all your struggles and inspired you not only to try something that wasn't popular in that community, but to share that journey with others?
Thank you, Barb. Barb was in Meat Stock with us. She was in the kitchen.
Love Barb.
She was amazing. Autoimmune. Like, my husband has said, I need you to be functioning, Adrian. I can't have you out for the count all the time. And with my autoimmune, sometimes my energy is so in the tank. My brain is so in the tank that he's like, we got to do something. Because I was after my surgery, so anti-big pharma. After losing a kid, so anti everything. But he was like, listen, we still have to function as a family. And some of the functional people were talking about how these were basically a miracle for people who are struggling with inflammation and brain issues and heart issues. And so that was the primary reason, was to not the weight, but although who doesn't want to be good looking, or better? Who doesn't want to feel better about how they look? But ultimately it was, this is a great ticket for autoimmune. And then I look at some of my family members. My dad has Parkinson's. My son's not doing so hot. And I just thought, what if it works for me? Maybe it could work for them.
This is a little bit of I think, an important question. What do you think over many years our bodies have less GLPs being produced, and the drug might just be bringing us back to how we should be? Because GLPs are natural substances in our body. The ones that are being sold are manufactured.
They're synthetically derived, but so are bioidentical hormones. Sorry.
But they're still synthetic. But I think the point is, when you think about replacement of hormones, sometimes by using the hormone that you're trying to replace, you suppress the natural production of that. And this is what Larry is asking. What do you think over many years? What that theory? We have been producing less GLPs, and maybe now with the use of the exogenous GLP,
More papers.
it might
I
be
personally
bringing
think
you back to normal.
I think that the viruses, the pesticides, the chemicals they're putting in our food, I think I said viruses. I think it's causing damage, and I don't know that it was natural for us to continually produce less GLP-1, but they are showing that over time people are producing less GLP-1. And maybe it's I did 20 years of your plate is 90% vegetables and 10% lean meat. I mean, I did that for 20 years. And I was told that I didn't need any more meat than this palm of my hand, and to fill the rest with vegetables. And not only, were we building up, I think we have a bucket. I think we were probably able to process so many plants at a time, but we were throwing in chia seeds and almonds and spinach and blending it and drinking it.
Any final comments, Dr. Kiltz?
I agree with Adrian 100%.
Adrian, we love you. I think
I love you guys
too. It's good to discuss the different theories and points of views. That's why we're here. The good thing, the positive thing is you are feeling better. Mm-hmm. And I am personally, and Dr. Giltz as well, we're not opposed to using medications of any kind, just under the right circumstances. And I'm sure you're still trying to exercise properly and eat properly, which is very important, because many people are just depending on, I take this drug, I keep eating the same way, I lose 30 pounds, I feel happy, I stop the medication, and you gain that back and more. All right.
I know a lot of people who feel like a melted candle, and they don't feel great because they didn't eat protein, and they lost, and they're like, oh, the number one thing people say, I wish I would have started weightlifting immediately. And I would like to add to them, and you probably should have been eating more meat.
All right.
Fatty meat.
Hashtag Adrian, I'm going to be pushing that button in just about 30 seconds. Hashtag Adrian. But Adrian, where can we find you?
You can find me at radicallyhealthy.com, where I'm helping people combine, lifestyle with some peptides, or Instagram, Adrian K. Gledhill, or YouTube.
Adrian, we love you. Thank you.
I love you too. I'm so excited to see you in Montana. Are we going to see you, Dr. Nelson?
Not in Montana, but I will be in Boston today, in Melbourne next week at Carnivore, and I'll be in a few more things.
How about Champions for Health in Orlando?
yes, we're going to be in Orlando. Dr. Kills is talking as well. We're going to have a booth there. So we'll be in Orlando as well, both for
Awesome.
Keto Orlando and later in the year for Hack Your Health.
Yep.
Okay, let me bring this up.
Let's see who's the winner.
And
if I win, then I go to Kilt's Mighty Tribe and pick someone that hashtagged. Adrian.
all right.
Yo, Adrian.
I got that my whole life, never watched the video.
I never watched it either. Once.
Oh, so
Okay.
close. So close, my friend Rachel. But yay, J-Bud.
All right, all. I got to run. I love you, Adrian. I'll talk to you later, Dr. Nelson. I'll see you tonight.
Send an email to alia@drkills.com. By the way, her flight was delayed to Boston. I don't know if she finally arrived.
All right, Adrian, I'll see you in Montana. I love you.
Love you. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.